KTCA TV, St. Paul, Minneapolis, Channel 2.
Turning Point is a production of KTCA Channel 2.
Tonight from Turning Point. In the next few moments, the Kelleys' lives will change forever. But think of it from the child's point of view. 11-year-old No Woo Sang will walk down a short gangway and become 11-year-old Danny Kelley. In a transfer process taking perhaps 30 seconds, his entire life will change before his eyes. It is an exciting and confusing and scary moment. All Companies Incorporated, providing insurance and insurance-related products and services to individuals and businesses since 1853.
Mom, can I hold her? Can I hold her?
Sure you can.
Last year, this scene was repeated hundreds of times at Twin Cities International. At those moments, the airport was indeed appropriately named, for it is here that Minnesota's newest immigrants begin their new life in a new land. Good evening, I'm Dave Iverson. At this moment, tens of thousands of American couples are faced with the same dilemma. They want to have children, but are unable to bear their own. The dilemma used to be easier to solve. Couples wishing to adopt would simply contact an agency, pay a fee, and wait. Usually, they were soon able to adopt an infant child of the same race. But over the past 15 years, the adoption process has changed drastically. A new and wider acceptance of single mothers keeping their own children, the availability of birth control, and abortion have all affected who is adopting whom. Today, couples wishing to adopt are increasingly considering older children, handicapped children, and foreign children. The number of foreign-born adoptions has tripled over the past 15 years. They come from all over the world, from India, Colombia, and Costa Rica. But by far the most come from Korea, and where they come to most often is here. More foreign-born children are adopted in Minnesota than any other state. Last year, one Minnesota family, the Kelleys, decided to expand their family. After exchanging letters with a Catholic priest in South Korea, the Kelleys made their decision. An 11-year-old boy born thousands of miles away was going to grow up in suburban Minneapolis. Producer Bill Hanley reports.
A busy airport, a noisy concourse, and a couple waits to bring a son they've never met home to a house he's never seen. In the next 30 minutes, the lives of Jack and Barb Kelley and their 5 children will have changed dramatically. But for an 11-year-old Korean boy named No Woo Sang, life will have been turned absolutely upside down. The Kelleys live in suburban Minneapolis. Jack is a stockbroker. Barb is a homemaker. And they have 5 children. Jim, 20, Mary Kay, 17, Jane, 14, Paul, 15, and an older son, Stephen, away at college. When their youngest son arrives, he will be called Danny.
The father died when Danny was a baby. The mother tried to raise him and support him, and then remarried, I think, like 3 or 4 years ago. And it just did not work out. The stepfather didn't accept him. And
We both have worked hard to get what we have from a material way and so on, and our kids have been healthy. We've been just lucky in so many different ways, and we just want to give a little bit back, and this is our way of doing it.
But along with the Kelleys' positive feelings about the adoption, there were also some fears.
But I think the only one right off the bat that said he didn't want to do it was Paul.
It's just, maybe a different race, or, a Korean, or maybe my friends would, make fun of him, or if things like that might happen.
Did you feel they were going to make fun of Danny, or did you feel somebody might make fun of you?
Both, like you're adopting a Korean, it's just, and then they'd be making fun of him, or chink, or, things like that.
Well, I'm excited and anxious, but I'm scared too. I'm scared just of the fact that he's coming and what it's going to be like, and will I do a good job?
In the next few moments, the Kelleys' lives will change forever. But think of it from the child's point of view. 11-year-old No Woo Sang will walk down a short gangway and become 11-year-old Danny Kelley. In a transfer process taking perhaps 30 seconds, his entire life will change before his eyes. It is an exciting and confusing and scary moment.
Put the cat up.
We'll bring him right around to you. Thank you.
The priest in whose home in Korea Danny has lived since March is Father Ben Zwaber. He accompanied Danny on the flight to Minnesota. And during the trip, what was he talking about?
We were going over, they called us new Father Daddy and Mommy, and the names of his brothers and sisters. He would always miss the one. He'd miss Jane all the time. But he making sure that he was prepared. And then, what do I tell my dad when I first meet him? And I would just tell him that I'm happy to be here. I love you. Glad to meet you, or anything, And I think he did very well when he got in.
Sister, Mary Kay. Huh? Mary Kay? Son. And I'm your dad. I'm a dad. Hello. We're so happy to have you come with us. I just want to tell you. Jimmy, did you say hello? This is Jimmy. Jimmy. You know Jim? Jim. You know Paul? Paul.
The people are new, the relationships uncertain, and the language unknown. Little wonder, then, that Danny Kelley looks so scared. In a very short time, he is going to have to come a very long way. From here in the heart of South Korea, it's easier to understand the fear that you see in the eyes of Danny Kelley and children like him. Every one of them bring with them the imprint of a culture which is, both literally and figuratively, worlds apart from anything they're likely to see in the United States. The life of a child in Korea is a good life. Discipline is usually stricter than in the U.S., but families are generally close and caring. For 1,000 years, a premium has been placed on the bond between blood relatives. But it's just that facet of Korean society, the strict loyalty to blood relatives, that makes life for orphans here so uncertain. Orphanage. It's a word and an institution which have all but disappeared in the U.S. But here in Korea, orphanages like this one still flourish. This is the Kyongdong Babies Home in Suwon, South Korea, 30 miles south of Seoul. When we visited late last April, there were 61 children, ages 1 to 6, awaiting placement. Most would go to homes in the United States and Europe. Many of these children were born out of wedlock in a society which places a premium on the bloodline of the father, and it is usually next to impossible for the mother to keep the child. Adoption remains a foreign concept to most Korean families, so the people of Suwon City send their children here to wait. Mrs. Wee Soon-chung and her husband lost both of their children to chickenpox during the Korean War. For 30 years, they have run the Kyungdong Babies Home.
Is this a happy place for kids, does she think?
여기가 아이들에게 행복한 곳이라고 생각하시냐고요?
그렇게 해주기 위해서 우리들이 최선을 다하고 있다고 생각하고 있어요.
Well, she tries her best to make this a happy place for children. But here, they can't really get all the love that they need, whereas a child in a family receives much love from parents, grandparents, sisters and brothers, so she thinks that it's best for the children to be placed with a family as soon as possible.
Though orphanage life in Korea is often hard on children, the orphans here in Suwon, at least, appear happy and normal. Healthcare is maintained through the presence of a full-time nurse and by regular visits from a doctor from Suwon City. Korea is a largely Christian nation, so meals here are preceded by an orderly, if not somber, prayer. Through little things, you can begin to see that these children are being readied for a life very different from the one here in Suwon. Though the food is Korean, the utensils are Western. And in other small ways, the caretakers, or bomos, prepare the children for the shock that awaits many of them. A shock that begins as soon as the child has been matched with a waiting family in the United States.
가르치기 때문에 가서 잘 적응한다고 자부하고 있어요.
She prepares the children, the bomos prepare the children with the letters and pictures that the adoptive family send the child, the names of the family, the sisters and brothers, where they're going to sleep, the car. The adoptive families usually send pictures, and the bomos teach them how to greet and to behave, all that. So she thinks they're very well prepared.
For this little girl, there is but 1 week left with her friends at Kyungdong Orphanage. Next week, she goes to take up her new life on a farm in Michigan.
That's how much they wanted a girl, and they're very happy that this girl has been found for them. And they're so excited. They named her Allison. And here's a picture of the plane, so she would know which airplane she's going to ride in when she lives for her family, so she won't be afraid.
Well, most Korean children think that America is just one step above heaven, you know. It's really a great place to go to. And even the name, Migok, is a beautiful country. And most kids, sometime in their life, want to go to America anyway.
어려울 때 하는 것이 아주 연배가 많이 돼요.
She worries about a little older children who will be exposed to different people, different customs, different lifestyles, different food. The difficulties that they'll have until they adjust to the life over there. She worries about the transition period.
What we've seen and heard so far takes us up to that moment of adoption, that moment when two cultures so many miles apart finally come together. But a great deal must happen before that dramatic instance occurs, and we're going to stop our story for a moment and talk about all those things that have to happen first. Joining me to do that are Terry Bacall, who is the adoption coordinator for the Children's Home Society in St. Paul, and also with us Hyun Suk Han, who is a social worker with the same agency, the Children's Home Society in St. Paul. I think we should talk a little bit first about why there is this this very popular Korean-Minnesota connection, so to speak. How has that developed? Why here? Why Minnesota? Terry?
Well, as I understand it, it started quite a while ago with a head of one of the Korean agencies who was here at the university and started working with one of the agencies in Minnesota. And they started a program, and the people in Minnesota took to it, and it grew and it grew. Oddly enough, one of the other places in the world where there is a large adopted population is Sweden.
I suppose there's some similarities between Sweden and Minnesota. Why do you think that's happened, that this state has taken so to that process? Is there any reason that you can think of? Is that our relatively stable economy here, or what would make that particularly adaptable here?
When I first visited to this state in 1971, I wanted to know why people in America are adopting children from Korea, because I wanted to make Korean people adopt Korean children. And then I came here and met many adoptive parents and found that they are very open-minded people. They were anxious to be parents, and they were anxious to have children. And I thought that was like a fever. Everyone loved to be parents of children. And after I went back, I adopted a child too. So I think one family makes another family be happy, and watching how happy they are make another people too.
What you seem to be saying is that in a sense, despite those cultural differences, that it's very much just families, and the process of adopting is the process of adopting.
Yeah, I think the other thing, as far as the number of children that are in Minnesota itself, is really just the original connection, because you really needed a connection, especially at the beginning, to be able to process the children. And it became an easy process, and the more children that came, the more people that became enthusiastic about it.
What are we talking about in numbers? I think about 600 Korean children were adopted in Minnesota last year, 800 foreign-born altogether. Do you expect that to continue? Is that the kind of number that we'll expect to see in the future, do you think?
I think the program is cutting down slightly, but not significantly at this point. I think the Korean adoptions are going to continue. It looks very good.
At least this year is going to be same.
I want to know what you talk to prospective parents about. If I, for example, were to come down to the Children's Home Society and was interested in pursuing this, what would you want to know about me, first of all?
Okay. The children that I process are really different than the rest of the children that are processed through Children's Home Society. I run a special needs program. The children are older, boys over 7, girls over 10. They're children of all ages with handicaps. They're the Amerasian children, the children fathered by Americans in Korea, or they're the large sibling groups of 3 or more. So I would talk about your flexibility and your expectations.
Do you find that most people come prepared, or is it sort of something that they walk into and then come out an hour later thinking, oh boy, I never thought of that?
Oh, I shouldn't say most people are prepared for particular foreign-born child. That's why if we find out you are anxious to be parents, you have a lot of love for the child, and then we try to help you to be prepared for a specific child. Like if you are adopting a baby from Korea, then we prepare for you to be a parent for a baby. If like Terry's program, if you want to adopt a handicapped child, then we prepare you for being a parent for that.
Are there particular kinds of questions that I ought to ask myself were I in that situation that are different than the questions I asked myself 4 years ago when I became a parent? I mean, are there things that I really have to think hard about that I wouldn't think about normally in the parenting process?
Like 10 years ago, parents thought, oh, children are all the same, so we think we are sure we could adopt the children from Korea. But these days, parents are saying that yes, with a different cultural background child, what kind of parenting we have to provide for these children, and also for identity factors are
I
involved
think
with our life.
my favorite statement that I must use every day of my life is a quote directly from Hyun Suk, which is, you can treat the child like a Caucasian child, but that child goes to the mirror every day and they look in that mirror and the face is Oriental.
What about that? That you know, this is a society that at least likes to talk about the value of different cultures and maintaining pluralism here. What happens, and how important is it, and how do you try to maintain some of that Korean connection after that happens here?
Couldn't be, in my estimation, more important. Couldn't be more important. Child cannot feel really good about himself until they can feel good about where they came from and understand their past and understand why they're here.
How do you help them do that, Hyun-soo?
Like for little baby, when they become even 3-4 years old, they ask to mommy, Mom, do I have brown eyes like you? And they say, no, you have black eyes. Why? And they started to question those things. That's why we try to be ready for those answers.
So
like mother tries to answer that you have black eyes, but your black eyes are beautiful. And so child understands she has a different looking eyes, but it's beautiful and okay. And for many adoptive parents are cooking Korean food, and just like spaghetti and pizza. And so children later find out, oh, that was from my country where I was born. And they really appreciate the parents, and they...
The other side of this is we can't shove it down their throats. There are stages that the children go through where they want nothing to do with their background or their past. And I think we have to gently let them go through that and bring it up at another time when it's easier to take.
All right, let's pick up now with the rest of our story. Homeless Korean children and adopting parents in America share something before the fact. They must wait, and they must live with unanswered questions like some of the ones we've been talking about. They share a kind of uncertainty, and when they finally meet each other, they obviously share something more. They become a family. They begin a new transition. They start growing up together.
As with almost all older foreign children, that transition period for Danny Kelley would last for months and probably years. But it began in the early hours of his first night at home.
Is he going to go to school on Monday?
Monday or Tuesday.
Gang, is that right? Gachi no la ra?
Yeah.
Play with the puppy.
Play with the puppy.
The immediate first fear that I always hear is the language. Everybody is so afraid that they're not going to be able to communicate with the child. That turns out to be the smallest of the problems once a child arrives. The cultural problems turn out to be the bigger ones.
Okay. 물. Water. Kimchi. Water.
Okay.
Water bed.
Okay, Paul, you and Danny can lay down.
Or lay down.
Lay down. Roll over.
Isn't that fun?
I know what that says on the shirt there.
New.
New stars.
What does the shirt say?
Yeah, but new star. No.
What does it say?
That's an American word.
New stars.
New stars.
New stars. North stars.
In
No.
Korea.
No.
In the middle.
Yeah.
Where's pretty shirt? Beautiful shirt.
I don't understand. What is this?
Bird. Bird.
Jack, you're going to be good out there. I can tell it right now. You don't have to talk loud.
His day has been flooded with new experiences to both frighten and amaze even the toughest 11-year-old. Though he can't express it, Danny must be feeling tired and scared and very lost.
Are you tired, honey? Tired? You want to go to sleep? You want to go to bed? To go?
The donuts you find in the supermarket are usually made by machine.
Come on, honey.
Dunkin' Donuts.
No, it's good.
Okay. Are these pajamas? You sleep in pajamas, or do you want to sleep here with this? With these? You want this? You don't have to put this over. Are these pajamas to sleep in? To sleep? Sleep? Okay. Well, we'll put these on, is this, where's my book? Find out. Is this underwear?
Let's see. Ibuga? For bed? Ibura? For bed? This? Or this? See? Okay. Here, that says Bo So Ka. Yeah, this? For bed? Or will you take it off, that means? I don't think that means that. I think you should just sleep in this tonight. We'll save this for tomorrow, these pajamas. Those look like pajamas that you have on to me. Okay? You want to kneel down and say your prayers? Kneel down, say your prayers. Kneel down. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, amen. Okay, very good. Okay. I'll put this here. You want the pillow? Yeah. You like that? Okay. Is it warm? It's comfortable, honey. Okay. Good night. I love you.
Straight edge, this vertex with this intersection. You got it done?
3 days after Danny Kelley arrived in the United States, he was in Meadowbrook Elementary School, 6th grade.
Great, that's a shirt, and you see this is a shirt that you have right here. Sure. What would this be? Pants, right. Pants. You have pants? Right here. You have brand new Levi's.
There is part-time tutoring for Danny and the other children for whom English will be a second language. But for the major part of every day, he will be in a regular class with regular kids. He is in for a real struggle, but one which thousands of other Korean children before him have also faced.
And when I arrived at the Minneapolis airport, there a black lady greeting me, and I thought, oh wow, she's really weird. I mean, she can't even talk Korean, you know? She can't even talk right. I knew absolutely nothing about America. I thought America was part of Korea. Actually, I thought Korea was the only country in the world. Seemed so big then.
Jung-Ah Peters has traveled the same path which now awaits Danny Kelley. 7 years ago, she left what she remembers as being a very poor section of Seoul, South Korea, and arrived in Minnesota.
I feel certain right now, but at first I was just very apart. I was very shy. And girls helped me a lot to get along to classes and play with me in recess time. But I think the boys were a little off, and they were teasing. They were always teasing.
Did they call you names?
Yes, they did call me names. Not really mean ones, but the ones that would make you understand that you are different and feel that you are different and not like the others. A chink, they would call me chink, and they would call me peek the face.
Were you interested in making a good impression?
I figured that if I didn't get along with the American family, I felt that they would send me away or get another child, and I felt that I was really intent on pleasing my American parents.
While Jung-Ah Peters knows that the road can be rough for kids like Danny Kelley, so do the parents of foreign-born children. Sometimes the transitions are easy, but sometimes they are very hard.
Emily arrived, our second adopted little Korean girl, arrived not knowing that there was another language spoken anywhere in the world, not realizing there were white-skinned, yellow-haired people, had absolutely no preparation. So as a result, upon her arrival, she was extremely angry.
Holly, what about you?
We have two foreign-born children, and the most difficult has been our oldest, who is the most recent. It will be 4 years in May.
Lying, cheating, stealing, wetting the bed, messing his pants at school.
Defiantly?
Very defiantly. He is unable to attach. He's a non-attached child. I think where he's at right now is he's feeling attached to us, and the poor kid's scared to death.
I think there's a great deal of frustration. And that's universal, whether it be Colombian or Korean or what. When you try to fit into a social environment where there's one language spoken, and they don't know that language.
I guess it was just not being able to cope at first and don't know what's going on. I was so confused, and I was sick because of the foods. I cried a lot, yes.
All right, the last piece, Donald. Can you make it? Hang on. Make it so it's up straight. Is it on straight?
Yeah.
Are you tired?
For Danny Kelley and his new family, Christmas was something of a milestone. There had been some early tears and some hard days at school, but by Christmas, just a month after arriving in the United States, Danny was already showing signs of really fitting in.
It is a little swan. Do you like that one? Yeah, that's a swan.
Sort of like a gingerbread.
For the Kelleys, Christmas was a time of thanks that Danny had arrived safely and that he appeared happy. But for perhaps thousands of other American couples who might wish to adopt a Korean child during the next few years, the future is clouded by both economic and political uncertainties back in Korea. The futures of these Korean orphans will be largely shaped by one single political fact of life. The South Korean government is embarrassed by overseas adoptions. Spurred by recent North Korean propaganda against the practice, the government in Seoul is trying hard to promote the adoption of these children inside Korea. Unfortunately, that government program goes against 1,000 years of Korean tradition.
Korean families are concerned about more than maybe families in overseas, about appearance and their blood, you know that, because we think very highly of the blood relationship.
But despite 1,000 years of history and tradition, more and more Korean families, like the family of this Seoul construction worker, are beginning to accept the nation's orphans, either as foster children or as legally adopted children. If this government-sponsored change of heart toward adoption continues, the next few years may see an end to the flights of children out of Korea. And back in the U.S., at Children's Home Society in St. Paul, the executive director argues that because of constantly changing economic and political conditions all over the world, he won't even hazard a guess as to the future of intercountry adoptions.
If I were able to answer that question, I would want to run for president. There's no way of knowing what the circumstances are going to be in foreign countries relative to the governmental structure and the attitudes of the governments on programs like this.
So you just take it year by year?
Exactly. We have to take it year by year in the sense of what's in the best interest of the children.
With spring, it really became apparent that Danny Kelley was going to make it. His English was improving almost daily, complicated only by the fact that his voice was beginning to change.
Tell us about what you're going to do this summer.
Summer, I'm going to play baseball. And I don't know, maybe we're going to go someplace. Yeah.
Have you gone anywhere since you've come? Have you gone on any trips?
Yeah, I've been at Las Vegas.
What did you think of Las Vegas?
That's kind of nice.
When you play baseball, what position do you play?
I don't know that yet. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna figure out that Saturday.
Saturday, you're gonna figure that out.
That's my first game.
Do you got any idea what you're gonna be doing the rest of the summer besides baseball?
Track.
Track?
And
you're gonna help your mom and dad around the house?
Yeah, I make them the flowers the garden, and myself, I did what I wanted.
Danny is already planning a summer full of baseball and track and a flower garden, which he planted in April. His brother Paul, who was at first so concerned about the adoption, says now that all his worries have evaporated. Danny, he says, is a good kid. For Jung-Ah Peters, the future will hold high school graduation and music studies at the University of Minnesota. But first, she hopes to return briefly to Korea. When you go to Korea, what are you looking forward to seeing?
Mainly people again, and in pictures I've seen beautiful parts of Korea, and all I've been able to see is the slums and gutters, and I would like to travel all over Korea and see the beautiful parts of it, so I won't have this idea of slum in my head all the time.
And we asked Jung-Ah if she had any advice for Danny Kelley, especially as he gets old enough to begin comparing his life to the lives of people around him.
I don't think he should feel left out. I don't think he should feel below those people. I think he should feel more special because he went through experiences that those people have not. And therefore, I think adoptive children grow up a little faster because they have these experiences. All I can say is just be himself and not try to change his personality to match others.
And Danny Kelley has made it now all the way to the Channel 2 studios via Las Vegas and several other places. I want to know, after watching all of that, watching you play baseball and everything else, what do you like best so far?
I like to do baseball too, but I like to draw some.
What do you draw pictures of?
I look to some like comic books and I draw little different, but they're fancy.
Do you have a favorite comic book yet? Oh, there's time to decide that.
One of our friends brought Danny home 3 comic books from Korea just last week. She worked as an executive with Target, and she was over in Korea and brought home 2 or 3 comic books for Danny, all in Korean, and Danny really does have a talent for drawing. He would open the book, and the first thing he looked for was a picture of some Korean hero or something over there, and then he would get a blank piece of paper and then draw, not copy it, but just draw, and it really came out very good.
Jack and Barb Kelley are here, of course, too, as Danny's parents. I'm curious about the changes you've noticed. It has only been now 7 months, which is a short time. What kinds of things have you seen? What's changed for Danny and for all of you?
Well, I think he's become so Americanized, which is fun and exciting, but I hate to see him lose some of his Korean culture that he had. I don't think he will lose it, but when he first arrived, he did so many cute things and said funny things that were maybe a little combination of American and Korean, and he doesn't do that anymore.
Jung-Ah Peters, as you watch some of that tape of Danny at age 11, about the time that you came to this country first, did it remind you of yourself at that time? What memories do you have of those first moments in this country?
Well, I could see that he was really nervous when he first came, and I saw myself just coming off the airplane and feeling very nervous, and surprised to see so many different things that I didn't expect to see. I don't really remember learning English really that fast, but Mom and Dad always said, you learned really fast, and they also said that I made cute comments once in a while.
Mom is Mary Lou Peters, who is here as well. Everyone seems to learn so quickly. Was that your impression, too?
Well, not really, because Jung-Ah caught on quickly, but she was pretty fiercely Korean, and she really didn't want to learn. When she came, she explained later that she thought that we would be talking Korean. She didn't realize that we would be speaking English.
Is that Ellen Schrick is here as well with her daughter Jana? Was that your experience as well? This sudden realization that the world is not Korean.
Jana came very well prepared. by her Korean family, and we have a relationship continuing with her Korean family, and we count that a real special feature. Our second little girl came not as well prepared. However, within her own mind, she too felt that we would be able to understand her. She had no idea that there was another language spoken because of lack of exposure.
How are you trying to all maintain that? Barb and Jack, you are the newest at this, in a sense. What do you do to try to maintain that sense of two cultures at once?
Well, I asked Danny a lot about what it was like in Korea, and if I see something on television or read something in a book that is just new or news in Korea, I always tell him about it and ask him. He seems to know a lot about Korean history, and especially the Korean War and General MacArthur and Eisenhower. He's very knowledgeable in that. He knows about the Korean government, and so those are the ways that I try to keep Korea a little bit familiar with him. And we all have picked up a few little Korean words that I don't know whether they mean a heck of a lot, but
at our house, we are very fortunate to have many Korean friends, family units, husband, wife, children. And it's been real interesting in that they accept our interest in their culture, but they're trying to learn from us American ways, because some of them are fairly recent newcomers to America themselves. But the girls, Jana, would you like to tell them a little bit about she and Anayan? Friends came
Who are they?
last June.
We play with them and they come over, go swimming and stuff.
What about food?
We go over there to their house and they fix Korean food for us, and it's really fun because I miss that.
Is that what else do you miss? What kinds of things do you remember that you wish you could do more?
I miss some of my friends.
Do you write them? Do you hear from them still?
Not my friends, but we are in contact with my family.
When you get older, Jana, do you think would you like to go back?
Just to visit.
Just to visit. What will you think you'll feel like when you go back?
I really don't know.
Yeah. So now you're about to go back, or not about to, but you hope to within a year or two to visit again, correct?
After my senior year, hopefully, I'm working hard to raise money. You were asking her how she would feel if she went back. I know I expect the places to be much different, and people to look a little different, and I just expect that if I go back, they won't look for my old as I was when I was 11, but they would accept me as I am, because I'm sure I've changed a lot because of different surroundings, and I'm willing to accept them if they have changed. But I hope they've not Americanized, because Korean is Americanized. I've seen from the tapes, and I hope their personality has not changed from the developments around them.
Are you still in contact with some of your friends?
Yeah, I'm in contact with my Korean mother and some of my relatives, and friends sort of write me to send pictures and tapes.
Jenna has really been excited because her Korean relatives have sent her tapes, and they will get together and sing and talk, and we've sent tapes to them of Jenna's piano and some of her singing.
How do the parents, and I should not forget Jane Kelley, Danny's sister, who is here as well, how do all of you feel about going back to Korea? Have you ever thought about that, about going there? Would you like to visit and see, Jane, where Danny came from, for example?
Yeah, I would. He has two twin stepbrothers, and he was telling me one night that when he gets older, he wants to get money and send and have them come over here and see what it's like. And so I want to go and see what they're like.
Ellen, have you thought about that, about going to Korea?
I have a brother that has two adopted Korean children. They went to Korea and picked their children up when they were adopted, and they were 6 months and 1 year. And they just returned, and the children are the age of our children. They're 8 and 10. And it was a great cultural shock for these kids. The evening before they left, I said, David, how do you feel about going? And he said, Auntie Ellen, I don't really want to go because I'm not Korean. He got there and it was too much. They had to pull back. But by the time they left, he was ready to go into the cities again and so on. But it was quite an experience. And I guess we someday would like to go, mainly to see the families.
How do you feel, Mary Lou?
Oh, I would love to go to Korea. We've heard so much. Jenna is a little bit different. Her Korean mother lives there, and we've heard a lot about her. We've heard a lot about the beautiful scenery. We would really like to go.
When I first came and thought about going back to Korea and visiting, I was a little nervous or almost embarrassed to ask Mom or Dad if that would be all right with them. And I was afraid that they would feel sort of uneasy and sort of feeling of mixed feelings, I suppose, of wanting me to go and visit again and of sort of holding me back maybe. I thought maybe they would feel like that.
Do those mixed feelings exist, Mary Lou?
My only concern is that Jenna is thinking about college and how she's going to work both the trip to Korea and college out. But that's her decision, and she's earning her money, and I think she'll work it out.
Let's talk some about how all of your families have changed. How is the Kelley household different now that Danny is a part of it? What is, or Jane, you answer this too. How have you all changed? We've talked about the changes the kids must go through, but your household has to be a much different place too.
Well, I don't really think...
Or is it? Huh?
No, I don't really think it is so different. Danny is the youngest of 6 now, so if you have 5 or 6, there's still a lot of chaos and confusion. So that hasn't changed, but I do find myself starting to say something that I would say to my other children that would be meaningless to Danny. Like one day I had asked him to do something and he didn't do it, and if it was Jane, I probably would have said to her, well, Jane, don't you understand English? I asked you to do it. Well, I say that to Danny, don't you understand English? And he says, no. So just little things are different. But the big everyday life is the same, and it's fun and exciting, and he's delightful.
He's delightful.
Yeah.
Now you'll have to tell the delightful story.
Oh, I have a wonderful, delightful story. When we were in Las Vegas, we were out to dinner and we were all around the table, and he had been so fun and so exciting in Las Vegas. And I said to him, Danny, you are just delightful. I said, you're a delight. I said, do you know the word delight? And he stopped for a minute and he looked up, he pointed to the light, and he said, yes, delight.
We should mention something else that lit up in Las Vegas while Danny was there. You had an interesting experience with something in Las Vegas. Tell me how much money you won while you were in Las Vegas. Do you remember?
I think about $18 or $28.
Not bad for a first visit. How have the other families changed? What is different in your lives?
Dramatically, because we have 2 adult children. They were in graduate school and pursuing their careers when Jana came along 3 years ago. So we had an empty nest syndrome for about 6 years, and then all at once we had Jana, and somehow or other that's contagious. And about a year later, we adopted our second little girl. I wouldn't trade it for a million. It's an experience that is beyond description. I'm sure each of you can attest to that. And I would do it again if we were able.
I know you've just said it's beyond description, but try for me. Try to tell me something about what makes it so special.
Well, I can only tell it to you in the eyes of others that have come to us and have said, oh, my, what you've done. My only response to that is, but it's selfish, because the rewards are so much greater for us than for them. And that's the only way I can describe it.
I feel exactly the same way. I've said that to Jack so many times. I said we decided to adopt a child to give them a chance that maybe they would not have been able to have. but it's been the absolute reverse. It's been a wonderful experience for us.
To be able to contribute to someone's life in a positive way, and to do it only through the arms of love. It's the only tool we have. The day they walked into the airport, non-speaking, had no physical attachment to us, but to grab that person and hug them and know they were yours and be able to give them something that only love can do. What other reward is there?
In that sense, very much like the feeling of any parent anywhere. You know, it certainly is much for us as parents than it
I
is
had
as
an
for-
experience in the grocery store one day when Emily first arrived, and some lady had been obviously watching this nonverbal communication. She said to me, tapped me on the shoulder, and she said, "How can you love someone else's child?" And my immediate response was, "She's not someone else's child, she's mine. She's ours." And I guess until you experience taking someone into your home and into your family permanently, there's no way you can describe to someone what happened.
Jung-Ah, do you feel that same sense of being absolutely a part now, after these years, of the Peters family?
Yeah. Sometimes when I'm not thinking of my Korean mother, it seems though I was born in America into this family because I feel so close. Well, our family was just sort of an instant family because I was adopted and Mom and Dad got married.
I started to adopt Jung-Ah as a single mother, and at that time it took 2 years because she was on a non-preferential visa list. And in the meantime, Lorraine and I met and decided to get married. So Jung-Ah came, and 3 weeks later we got married, and less than a year later we adopted David. And so we were 4 individuals coming together, and we've had the experience of learning to know each other and love each other and get along as a family.
Several weeks after the wedding, at that time I don't know it was an actual wedding because she didn't have the traditional wedding gown on. And I don't know if it was a wedding, I thought it was just a part of a church service. And I think just a couple months later, I saw pictures laying around, and I saw myself in the middle of Mom and Dad in a church, and I said, what was this about? And they said it was our wedding picture, and I said, wedding picture? So that's when I found out it was actual wedding, not one of the church services.
Are there things that still surprise you?
Yeah.
Jung-Ah?
You mean when I...
Those moments where you just all of a sudden have that feeling again that there are surprises, things you've never seen before, just as you felt that first time when you came off the airplane?
There are some pictures that Mom and Dad took when I first came, and when I look at those, I laugh at them because I look so different, so small. Those pictures sort of surprised me because I didn't know I looked so forlorn.
You know, along with the same thing, something that I learned just very recently, but Jung-Ah said to me, when I first came, there was one night when you sat down and you were crying and crying. Was that because you were disappointed with me? And when Jung-Ah first came, I was sewing my wedding dress, and the dumb thing wouldn't go together, and I sat there in tears one night, not realizing that we couldn't communicate, and Jung-Ah didn't understand. And she felt so bad for so long because she didn't understand the situation and we couldn't communicate. And I guess that was one of the big frustrations, not being able to communicate beyond basic words.
Is that those problems in understanding, is that, we've talked very little about problems, but there must be some. There must be moments, Jane, when you feel like there are problems, things that are difficult to understand.
I don't understand what you're asking, really.
Well, are there times when it's not so great, I guess? Are there times when you feel frustrated?
I think it's when either Danny or I are supposed to do something and neither of us do it, and he doesn't get yelled at and I do.
Jana had many frustrations when Emily came, because Jana had been here long enough to have mastered the language well enough to handle things. She was frustrated in that she couldn't communicate with Emily any longer, though that was her native tongue. But again, Jana, you want to tell them how we finally did it? We call Hija.
Oh yeah, our friend. Well, our friend is Korean and she translates letters and stuff like that. And when there's misunderstandings, we usually call her, and she, we talked, and she told us what she was trying to tell us.
That was a big help. That was a big help. Being able to get on that telephone.
I want to spend the final minute or so just talking, if we can, about the future. What are you looking forward to most, Jana? This summer, what do you look forward to being able to do?
Swimming lessons. Well, I can play with my friends without homework to do.
What about camp?
Just like any 11-year-old.
And camping, we're going to go camping this summer.
How about you, Danny? What are you looking forward to most this summer?
Golf and some fishing.
Danny's going to take some junior golf lessons this year. Our family is into golf heavily, and so he's going to pick up that game.
And Jung-ai, you are the one who is closest to moving on to a new part of your life. We've heard how you can play. What kinds of things at the piano, what kinds of things do you look forward to in the years to come in this country?
I hope that I'm capable of playing the piano well enough to perform. And besides that, I'm really hoping to teach because I like teaching.
It sounds like there's been a lot of teaching over the last few years.
And I guess for the summer, since we're so busy with our restaurant, I don't think we'll have much time to be actually together as a family. And I'm hoping that we'll have time off to be together as a family.
And with that thought about families, we will have to close. Thank you all very much. Tonight we have talked about the process of adoption, which is really just another way of saying we have talked about families. Families who live through all of the experiences and emotions of growing up. So before we leave you tonight, here's another image, another beginning scene of another couple, another child about to become a family.
They named her Allison.
You remember Allison. She was that frightened-looking little 5-year-old we met last April at the Kyungdong Orphanage in South Korea. She was just a week away from flying to the U.S. to begin her new life with a farm family in Michigan. Well, Allison's arrival May 7th was taped by WJBK-TV in Detroit. Like so many other young children, the 13-hour flight, on top of everything else, was just too much for Allison. Her new parents, the Patelkis of Mason, Michigan, say now that Allison quickly overcame her initial fear and homesickness. She is, they say, adjusting very nicely to her new life as an American.
And so tears turn to smiles as families across the country all begin to grow up together, new families in a new land. I'm Dave Iverson. Thank you for joining us on Turning Point. Good night.